Today I have 3 tips that will help you go faster in sim racing, iRacing, whatever simulator you're in, as long as there's 4 wheels. These tips will be useful. Now obviously I'm no pro racer, but these are concepts that I would have liked to know when I started off sim racing. And even as a kind of intermediate sim racer, I'd like to be reminded of these things. So these are 3 things that I'm going to show you how I do them. They're in no means perfect, but these are like abysses of rabbit holes that you can just continue on developing, learning, and it never really stops. You're always trying to reach perfection with it. So I'm in no ways perfect at all these things, but at the same time, by employing all 3 of these things, if you're not already doing them, they will make you a lot faster. Tip number 1, trail braking. Trail braking basically is where you come into a corner, you brake hard, obviously trying to get rid of your speed to the appropriate speed for the corner. And then it's kind of where the braking stops and the turning in happens. So I'm going to show you now in a second, but I just want to explain to you what it is in case you're not sure. So when you come into a corner, you brake, all the weight goes forward. I could use this to explain, or maybe I have something better here. There we go. Now, so we have this guy, all right? So when you come into a corner, you're going fast, all the weight is on the back when you're going fast because you're accelerating, so the rear is kind of leaning back a little bit and all the weight is more back here. And when the second you brake, all the weight shifts forward. This is obviously an exaggeration, you're not coming in like that. The weight shifts forward all onto the front, and then when you lift off the brakes fast, in the example I'm going to show you, which is the first one, the weight shifts back pretty fast. But when you're done braking, you don't want that to happen, because what happens after braking is turning. So if all the weight is back and these tires are getting lighter, and then you're going to brake, you're going to lift, the tires get light, and then you're going to ask it to turn, well, there's not much weight pushing down on these. So the idea of trail braking is that you keep the weight on the front tires for as long as possible. And by keeping the weight on the front tires, you're making the rear of the car lighter, which means it's easier for this guy to, let's say, oversteer or spin out on purpose. A way you could think of what trail braking is like a rudder on a boat or a plane or whatever. It's like you're steering the car and you're giving it a rudder in a corner. So I'm going to show you what's going on here, but basically it's all the weight going onto the front of the car and then giving you extra turn-in capabilities, superpowers, let's say, making it easier to turn in, making the back of the car lighter so you can get rotation, yaw angle. And yaw angle is very important because the quicker you can rotate around a corner, well, the quicker you can get through the corner and the faster you can go. So that's why rotation is very important, and trail braking is number 1 if you want to do rotation well. So let's have a little look at these examples. So in this first clip, we're going to see no trail braking, where we brake, we lift when we're done braking, and then we just wait for the corner, and then we apply the throttle. Again, we brake, then we lift, we turn in, we leave a huge gap, and then we get back on the power. This isn't ideal because, again, as I said, you're not putting all the weight in the front tires, hence why it's taking a while to turn in, and the car's not being very pointy for us, and we're not getting that nice rudder effect where we can steer with the brakes. Again, in slow motion, we can see it doesn't do much for us because all the weight is on the rear, or it's even in the center of the car, whereas if we were trail braking, all the weight would be slowly kept on the front for as long as we need it, and then as you release down to nothing, it would then shift to the back ready for acceleration, giving you a nice balanced platform to take off from the apex towards the exit. So this is an example of what it doesn't look like. We got 14.126 seconds for this mini sector that I've set up. The next example now is going to be with trail braking, so I'm by no means perfect at this, but this is just a demonstration of with and without, just to make the concept easy for you. So here's trail braking, we brake normally, and then we brake into the corner, slowly releasing the brakes, not kind of lifting the brakes, but pressing less, we'll say. Pressing less and less. And then again, a bit smoother here, we left a bit of a gap, but we got that nice turn in, and we're about 1/4 of a second up. So let's have a little look in slow motion here of what's going on. I've made 2 mistakes here. I'm going to say they were on purpose, but they were 50-50. I just did this quickly, but if I was to sit here and try and perfect this for you, I don't know. It would take too much time, and to be honest, knowing about this concept is one thing, perfecting it is a whole other thing. I wasn't too smooth on the brakes here. I was going on and off, on and off, on and off. I've been adjusting my brakes, getting used to them. So I have a lot of stuff. I'm on my own little mission here, but in general that was pretty good. We did trail all the way to the apex, and then we got on the accelerator the second we were done. Here we braked a bit too early. So what happened was we trailed to the corner, but then we saw if we keep trailing, we're actually going to hit the corner too much. So I had to finish the trail braking altogether. So when you see a gap like that, that should tell you you brake too early, or there's something else that's trying to tell you. But in general, you want to try and minimize that gap between braking and acceleration as much as you can. And you should feel it, that when you do that kind of thing, you're like, ah, damn, it's like I was like waiting in the corner. So next time you come back, you will actually brake later, and that means when you start finishing your trail braking, you will finish where you want to finish at the point where you want to accelerate. So that's trail braking in a nutshell. Not going to get into it too much, but a very handy tip if you've never heard of it before. Trail braking is great, and Fernando Alonso once said in a Formula 1 race that if you think braking is just for stopping, you're an idiot. Now, I'm just a sim racer, so I'm not an F1 racer, so I'm not going to take that as an insult, but he does, when you think about what that means when an F1 driver says that, the way Fernando obviously looks at braking is it's a lot more than just stopping or slowing down. It is a tool for turning, it is a tool for rotation, it is a serious tool. So your brakes are just as important as your accelerator, and I'm going to get into a cool tip here, because the accelerator can do just as much rotation as the brakes can trail braking. So make sure you hang around towards the end of the video for that, because that is a mega tip. This next tip, tip number 2, is a very simple one, and it's very tough to demonstrate here in a video because you just got to try it for yourself. It's to do with braking and shifting the weight of the brakes. So here in this first example you're seeing, we have braked at the same time when we've lifted off the throttle. So we've lifted and started braking almost at the same time, and we just didn't get the performance we wanted. We didn't get the stopping power we wanted. So, and a concept I heard about that it helps sometimes, I don't do it all the time, but sometimes when I want really consistent peak braking pressure, when I'm hitting 100%, let's say in the Porsche Cup car with no ABS and I'm getting lockups, you lift, let the weight go forward, and then start braking. This can make a huge difference. I can't show you, yeah, I could do data and I could show you times and stuff like that, but you really just got to try it out yourself, because it is a mega tip. It is a really, really cool tip that can help you, and it works off the same principle of as trail braking, that when you come into a corner and then you're coming into the corner, you lift, wait about, I don't know, a quarter of a second, the weight of the car will shift forward, and then you start braking. While all the weight is already forward, that means your front tires can really dig into the ground, and it can help you in cars like Formula cars, GT3 cars, Porsche Cup cars, any car basically. And it just gives you an extra thought about the balance and can help you hit that high threshold really fast. So, you know, these 2 tips I've given you, hitting your high threshold, just getting off the brakes, letting the balance of the car go forward, and then braking once the car is forward, and then braking and then slowly lifting off the brakes to keep that weight on the front of the car, is a huge tip, you know. So this is the entry to the corner sorted. Now the last tip I have is a really cool one. The last tip, tip number 3. This one here is a huge one. This is really difficult to try to show to you. I'm going to give you a screenshot though from one of my Mazda races I've done on the Nürburgring. If you use any kind of telemetry service, you can check this yourself, because more than likely you've actually been doing it by yourself without knowing that it is what it is. So this is that the second when you're in a corner and you're rotating, I'm going to use a little black thing for this. You come in, you start braking, you obviously trail brake, we've discussed that helps you get the maximum rotation into the corner, this rudder effect, making the rear light and making the front heavy, making it easy for the back end to come out and the car to rotate. Once you get to the apex though, you're obviously done with the brakes, there's no throttle applied yet. There's 2 things that can happen. 1, the trail braking went great and you can just apply your throttle and get out of the corner. Or 2, let's say you haven't made your corner, and our instinct is, let's say you get back onto the throttle and you feel like you're not going to make it, so then you lift off of it to try get more rotation. That can work, yeah. If you lift, the weight goes forward, the front bites down, and you get more of a turn, a rotation, and that does work, and you probably will use that in a lot of cases. But there is also a thing in the corner that when you apply the throttle, that also gives you your maximum rotation point, and you get your pure max rotation at this point. The trail braking will never ever reach as much rotation as you can reach from the second you apply the throttle in a corner. I'm no master at this. I do this by accident. Everyone does this by accident. But when you know this in a corner, this is the thing that gets you an extra half a tenth in a corner. Hands down, this will get you time. Come into the corner, you start trail braking, turn in, and then the second you get on the throttle, it gives you this little kick. This final kick, this peak in rotation that you're seeing on the screen here, that's what this data means. If you look at the data here, the peak in rotation in degrees per second is directly in line with any time that I get on the throttle, which is a very significant concept to know. So once you know that, you know, you're equipped here with superpowers, you know. So you have trail braking, you have shifting the weight forward if you're struggling to get on the brakes and hit that peak pressure consistently and you're wondering why you hit it sometimes, why you don't. Try letting off the gas, waiting a quarter of a second, shifting the weight forward, coming into the corner, trail braking into the corner to help you steer the car in, and then once you're steered in, stabbing the throttle to give you that final kick of rotation. You're set up pretty well to go. So these are 3 simple tips. Obviously I'm no master, but if you didn't know about any of these and you're happy you know now, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any ways that you've kind of worked with these tips, or easier ways to trail brake, threshold brake, or do that final rotation on the apex, or before or late apex, whenever you're kicking the throttle and getting that last little bit of yaw angle, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed the video, drop a like, and if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy hunting.